The modern diet, dominated by ultra-processed foods, has quietly but powerfully reshaped the metabolic health of entire populations. Nowhere is this more visible or more alarming than in the meteoric rise of type 2 diabetes. Once a relatively rare disease associated with old age, type 2 diabetes has become a global epidemic, afflicting children, young adults, and people in their prime. The steady consumption of ultra-processed foods plays a central role in this crisis. These products, often disguised as harmless snacks, convenient meals, or even healthy alternatives, have been shown repeatedly to disrupt blood sugar regulation, impair insulin function, and set the stage for long-term metabolic breakdown. Ultra-processed foods are often rich in rapidly digestible carbohydrates, added sugars, and chemically altered fats, ingredients that cause sudden and excessive spikes in blood glucose. When blood sugar surges, the pancreas is forced to pump out insulin, the hormone responsible for moving glucose into cells. But over time, with repeated exposure to high sugar loads, cells become less responsive to insulin. This condition, known as insulin resistance, is a foundational feature of type 2 diabetes. Once the body begins to ignore insulin signals, blood sugar levels remain elevated even in the absence of a meal, creating a dangerous and inflammatory internal environment. The damage doesn't stop there. The additives and emulsifiers often found in ultra-processed foods may also disrupt the gut microbiome, a crucial regulator of glucose metabolism. Altered gut flora is increasingly being linked to glucose intolerance and systemic inflammation, both of which accelerate the path toward insulin resistance. Artificial sweeteners, often marketed as safe alternatives to sugar, can paradoxically worsen insulin sensitivity, creating a false sense of dietary security while pushing the body further out of balance. This betrayal of trust, where the foods that promise convenience quietly sow disease, makes the problem all the more insidious. Moreover, the regular consumption of ultra-processed foods is strongly associated with weight gain and central obesity, which further compounds insulin resistance. Fat, especially abdominal fat, is not just a passive storage tissue. It actively secretes hormones and inflammatory molecules that interfere with insulin's effectiveness. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. Poor dietary choices lead to insulin resistance, which promotes fat accumulation, which in turn deepens insulin resistance. By the time symptoms appear, frequent urination, fatigue, blurred vision, or slow wound healing, the underlying damage is already substantial and often irreversible. What's most disturbing is that many people consuming ultra-processed foods are unaware of the metabolic harm being done. The food industry has succeeded in normalizing diets filled with processed cereals, flavored yogurts, energy bars, frozen meals, and sugary beverages, items that are widely perceived as convenient, affordable, or even nutritious. Yet beneath this veneer of modern food culture lies a very real threat to long-term health. Type 2 diabetes is not a disease that arrives overnight, nor is it the result of a single choice. It is the product of sustained exposure to foods designed to undermine natural metabolic processes. The toll this disease takes is brutal and far-reaching. Diabetic complications include blindness, kidney failure, nerve damage, limb amputations, cardiovascular disease, and early death. Once diagnosed, the condition often requires lifelong medication, blood sugar monitoring, dietary restrictions, and the constant psychological burden of managing a disease that could, in many cases, have been prevented. The economic costs are enormous, draining public health systems and placing immense strain on families and communities. In the end, the frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods is not merely a matter of poor nutrition. It is a serious, chronic assault on metabolic health. It pushes the body toward insulin resistance and accelerates the development of type 2 diabetes, often without immediate symptoms, which is what makes it so dangerous. As the global market for processed foods expands, the risk to public health grows in parallel. Without a dramatic shift in awareness, policy, and individual behavior, we will continue to see type 2 diabetes claiming more lives, earlier in life, and with greater severity than ever before.